Okay, hey there guys, so this is a pretty big war that I'm getting out a little bit late, but it's still a pretty big war. It's up against New Nation, who always, if you're talking like whatever you want to call them, alliances, it's usually, they're probably like top 3 in the game. They're always right up there. Last season they took it off a little bit and they were just aiming for like just Masters, I think. But this season they're pushing hard again and they're always a very, very tough alliance. And we put ourselves in a little bit of a bad spot in this war. Just had some unlucky stuff, some issues early on, especially in my BG of BG1. We gave up over half of the deaths in this war, I think, for our alliance. I won't like spoil what the scores are, but yeah, we had a lot of our alliance's deaths, so it was, and those were mostly early on as well. So everyone else after that was like really trying to make sure that we close it out without giving up any more, especially in the other BGs after us, because my BG always clears first. This section 1 I got the assignment for, and I was very, very confident in the kitty because it's a kitty pride. Not much to say about that. Like, it's a kitty pride with Nimrod. I was very, very comfortable with this fight. It was the next one that I was a little bit more unsure about because of his immortality phase, and I wasn't like worried about it, but I was just like, with the masochism it could make it an annoying fight, just getting long and healing and stuff, but we'll get to that fight soon. So because fortunately she's also a mutant, of course, I'm able to build my double armor ups when I parry, so I'm just trying to take advantage of that here, and I just want to get off. Oh, actually I don't go for the extra parry, but fortunately this SP2 just kills. Yeah, so I just played a little bit slow at the start with that power start 1, because it really just takes that like 2.5 combos, I think it is, to get up to that second bar of power. So I was just playing it nice and slow, tried to build a couple armor ups, wanted to switch my phases, just play it really nice and safe. For this fight, my strategy was to, when I have to use my reparry to trigger masochism, be in Titan to get the extra armor up. Otherwise, I wanted to get immediately back into Blitz off of that parry. So like right here, I switch, and then I want to try to get into my Titan, or my Blitz as fast as I can, so that way I can remove the regen, because of course Nimrod has that ability. And it was right around here when I thankfully realized I might be able to skip the immortality phase if I play this properly, because of how big Nimrod's DOT off the SP2 is, and that being most of his damage. So I'm really now trying to make sure I can play this as well as I can. So right here, I'm going to back off, and I'm going to parry. Oh, why didn't I go for the extra parry there? I think that actually would have been a pretty smart idea, but fortunately, that SP2, the final tick of the actually not even the final tick of the shock, just really around that final beam is what finishes him off. You can see the one death there, and the other death in just a second here. I do kind of still like that UI change, it's pretty nice. And I'm heading back down to path 9. So I did this duel a fair bit right beforehand. Like, I was out, I got home, I just do this duel like 10 times because I wanted to make sure I had his heavy spacing down, just really had it down. So here I'm going to switch one of my boosts. The idea for this for me was that I know I'm going to be gaining a ton of power because I have half suicides on right now, so that way I won't be taking the extra poison damage during this, and then I can get a bigger heal off because the poison of course reduces the healing, and then that also allowed me to have 4 or 5 points in Mystic Dispersion. So Gorr gains a ton of buffs even without his dupe for that regen. All of those little curses are a buff, so I can nullify each and every one of those plus the vicious on him, and just look at my power just go crazy. And then with the buff immunity, every single hit of that triggers one of the immunity charges, and that's why I wanted the power back boost, because watch this SP3 now. Because the immunity charges, of course, it does a fair chunk of damage. It's gonna do like 40,000, let's see. And it does, yeah, 43,000, and that gives me a full bar of power. So now right here, I'm just gonna bait out a heavy. Actually, I have the SP1. I decide I can eat this on the block because I have all the immunities in the world. I was just for some reason unsure of his SP1. I remember baiting it so much during the EQ, but I was just unsure. And again, I go with that SP2, the immunity charges, plus the power back, bringing me just so high. And right here, I just want to intercept with that SP2. I'm going to gain a couple shocks. I have that poison on me. But at this point, the fight is pretty much in there. And I just have to finish him off with that combo. And I think my strategy worked out because it allowed my SP2s there at the end to put me back up to higher power. And then it also let me have that SP3 push me back up to SP1, which of course, it's kind of like a little bit counterintuitive because I have the MD and the buff immunity to give me the extra power. But if something were to have happened and I would have like pushed him to SP3 by cycling too quickly, I wanted the ability to have my SP2 really at any point where I could maybe even shift into poison. I would take a bunch of DOT if it was in the bleed phase or whatever, but I would stop his SP3 from happening. So that was kind of the idea with that for me, and I knew I didn't... And the 150% boosts are pretty easy to like keep up on because you just don't use them very often. Or at least I don't, especially not the Mystic variety. I usually just go for the 200s. And for this fight, simple. I'm just going to go in parry heavy until my SP2. Build up as many armors as I can. I'm going for the heavy here so that I have the highest power per hit and the lowest chance for a shock. Even with that, I throw those couple hits at the end just because I'm silly. And I take a couple shock debuffs and it puts me down to 70%. But it's a 20-second fight because Power Start won. And that's my war against New Nation. I feel like I really liked all of those fights by me. I feel like I actually played those fairly well. This has been a little bit of a hit or miss season, I feel like, with especially that death. But I feel like that was pretty solid. As you saw, it's 3 deaths from my BG in 50 fights. But that's fine. So yeah. This was a really good war against New Nation. As I said, this is a very, very big war. As you saw, I put on the 30% boost, which I don't do every time. So we ended up winning by 1 death. I guess you could say 2 deaths because we beat them on time, so we would have had to die 7 to lose. But as I said, we had over half of our deaths in my BG. Just unlucky war for my BG, but this was a really good war by us. I mean, I guess not really a really good war. 5 deaths is more than we should be giving up to an alliance like New Nation, but it was a great game to them. This was a super, super tense one all the way through. Was having a blast talking with the Noon guys, especially some of the friends in there, and it was just a really, really fun one. And it's a good way to start off the second week of Alliance War. So, yeah. I hope you guys are having a good one, and I hope your wars went well as well. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Bye.